In 1983, English author Susan Hill's Gothic horror novel, The Woman in Black, sent shivers down readers' spines. It tells the tale of a mysterious specter haunting a small English town. Arthur Kipps, a young solicitor, is tasked with settling the estate of the late Mrs. Alice Drablow. Unaware of the horrors ahead, he boards a train to the remote village of Crythan Gifford. Arthur Kipps, a hard-working and ambitious young lawyer in London, received a life-changing task from his boss, Mr. Bentley. He was to journey to the remote village of Crythan Gifford and settle the estate of Mrs. Alice Drablow at Eelmarsh House. As Arthur's train departed the bustling city and ventured into the desolate countryside, an unsettling feeling washed over him. The once thriving landscape turned desolate, echoing the loneliness that awaited him. Upon arrival in Crythan Gifford, Arthur was greeted with an eerie silence and suspicious gazes from the locals. The village seemed to be gripped by an unspoken dread. At Mrs. Drablow's funeral, Arthur observed only a handful of villagers in attendance. In the distance stood a woman, clad in mourning black, her face pale and mournful. She stood apart from the rest, her presence haunting and unforgettable. When Arthur inquired about her, the villagers reacted with fear and avoided the topic altogether because they knew what he was talking about. Despite the villagers' reluctance to assist, Arthur remained resolute in fulfilling his duty. Eelmarsh House stood all alone, like it was throwing a party for one. You could only get there when the tide was low, and even then, you had to tiptoe across this sketchy causeway. Surrounded by marshes and covered in fog, the place practically screamed, "Stay away!" Arthur, our brave explorer, wasn't fazed. He marched up to the creepy old haunted house, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. Inside, it was dead silent, except for the occasional creak that made him jump. As he poked around Mrs. Drablow's stuff, the house seemed to come alive with weird noises, and Arthur was feeling that someone or something was watching him or following him. He was feeling a bit threatened and weird. Over the next few days, Arthur's adventures got crazier. He heard spooky sounds, saw things that weren't there, and even caught a glimpse of the infamous woman in black. One day, he swore he heard a horse and carriage struggling, followed by the cries of a kid and her maid, all coming from the marshes. But Arthur wasn't one to back down. The more the house tried to scare him, the more determined he was to uncover its secrets. As Arthur worked through Mrs. Drablow's papers, the silence was broken by strange sounds. Footsteps echoed in empty rooms, and he felt like someone was watching him. The air felt heavy with an unseen presence. Through a window, Arthur saw the woman in black standing in the graveyard. He rushed outside, sliding through the stairs, but she had vanished. From a window, Arthur saw the woman in black among the gravestones. He hurried outside, but she was gone again. Her sudden appearance and disappearance made the mystery around her deeper. The house revealed its dark secrets to Arthur. He found letters and documents telling a sad story of loss and revenge, as if the story was really about the women he had seen multiple times. The majority of Crythan Gifford's residents are hesitant to divulge details on Mrs. Drablow and the enigmatic woman in black. Kipps experiences agony and anxiety in response to any attempts to learn more. He finds out through a number of sources that Janet Humphrey, the sister of Mrs. Drablow, gave birth to a son named Nathaniel. She was compelled to give the child to her sister because she was single. The boy was adopted by Mrs. Drablow and her husband, who insisted that he never learn that Janet was his mother. Janet vanished for a full year. She agreed to stay at Eelmarsh House with her son, as long as she never told him who she really was, after realizing she could not be apart from him for an extended period of time. Janet watched helplessly from the window as a pony and trap that were transporting the youngster across the causeway one day got lost and plunged into the marshes, killing everyone on board. Kipps heard the child's screams, which were the ghost of Nathaniel. Arthur's experiences in the village grew more disturbing. He saw a young girl die, apparently driven to suicide by the woman in black. Arthur's presence in Crythan Gifford seemed to disturb the evil spirit. A young girl died in his arms after swallowing lye, her death seemingly caused by the woman in black. The villagers, gripped by fear, begged Arthur to leave, thinking he had awakened the vengeful spirit. Arthur sought help from Samuel Daly, a local landowner who gave him some insight into the supernatural events. Desperate for answers, Arthur went to Samuel Daly, a wealthy landowner. Daly revealed that his own wife had been tormented by visions of their dead son, driven mad by the belief that he was trying to contact her. Daly's doubt was challenged by the growing evidence of the supernatural. Arthur and Samuel Daly went back to Eelmarsh House, determined to confront the woman in black and stop her reign of terror. Determined to end the haunting, Arthur and Samuel Daly returned to Eelmarsh House. They found the child's body in the marsh and brought it to the nursery, hoping to reunite Janet with her lost son and calm her spirit peacefully. The house came alive with supernatural activity as Janet's spirit appeared, but instead of finding peace, her rage grew and grew even more. That night, the house became a place of ghostly activity. Janet's spirit appeared, her anger strong. Instead of finding peace, her rage seemed to grow, and Arthur realized that the haunting might never end and remain as a terror to the people. Believing the ordeal to be over, Arthur prepared to leave the village with his son and their caretaker. But the woman in black was not done. Arthur, thinking the ordeal was over, prepared to leave Crythan Gifford with his son and their caretaker. As they stood on the train platform, a chilling sense of dread came over him. The caretaker went to take the tickets, and Arthur was busy in talking with Mr. Daly, when suddenly Arthur saw the woman in black one last time. In a tragic twist, Arthur's son wandered onto the tracks as a train approached. Arthur, in a desperate attempt to save him, jumped forward, but both were hit by the oncoming train. In the aftermath, the villagers saw the ghostly forms of the woman in black and the children she had driven to their deaths. Afterwards, the villagers and Samuel Daly saw the ghostly forms of Janet Humphrey and the children she had driven to their deaths. Her spirit was still not at peace, trapped in an endless cycle of revenge. In a peaceful, otherworldly place, Arthur was reunited with his dead wife and son. In death, they found the peace that had escaped them in life, their family finally whole once more. Janet's spirit stayed at Eelmarsh House, her sorrow and rage a permanent part of the place. Yet, Janet's spirit stayed at Eelmarsh House, her sorrow and rage a lasting mark on the land. The woman in black remained a symbol of the unresolved pain that haunted the village, a grim reminder of the past's enduring power. And so, the story of the woman in black serves as a chilling reminder of how grief and revenge can drive a soul, leaving a legacy of fear and tragedy. This story has become well known across all countries. Many people from abroad visit the place to see the ghost. Some claim that this is all fluff, while some have approved the sightings of the woman in black. According to some speculations, the woman was just a mad lover Drablo, but nobody can approve the vanishing of the woman before their very eyes. So, What do you think about this story? Is it really a ghost, or is there something more terrifying behind the shadows? Let us know in the comments.